Where does the 2025 class rank after finding their landing spots? We fire up a brand new Dynasty rookie mock draft on this episode of the IBT podcast. All this and more. Let's get after it.
I've been going dummy, out of bounds, putting on a clinic. Stick around, carrots in my hardware. KC, caught him in the crosshair. Look at me, been the guy calling Mr. MVP. Keep your ass on the bench by my MPC. Earn my stripes like I fix this league. Your dog's on the turf, my dog's in the street. You can find me somewhere in between. Never a dull moment like a movie scene. About to do the ops like I did this beat. Let them keep talking RG3. Coming to you live. This is the In Between Fantasy Football Podcast.
All right. And welcome into the In Between Fantasy Football Podcast, your place for both a refreshing and feel-good take on fantasy football and NFL gambling. And with rookie fever still in full swing today, we head back to those Dynasty rookie streets with our mock draft 2.0 post-NFL draft edition. I'm your host, Seth Wilcock, and vibes are high as we begin this beautiful month of May. And tonight, I'm joined by a man who will soon be itching to send his kids away to summer camp. He's a big business, light ranching fella. He's Eric Romoff. How you doing today, pal?
Man, we're doing good. That summer camp reference makes me realize that we're back here hot boxing it for you in the studio as we are through most of the summertime. But the other thing that comes with the summertime is it means that a lot of these best ball drafts are firing up. We're starting to play around with what these ADP markets look like. And all of this comes together to inform and balance out the dynasty market, to inform and balance out the redraft market. So this is really the time of year where we start to get some meaningful data points in our understanding of where these players are ranked.
I certainly agree. It's almost like you can kind of put everything pre-draft a little bit, like crumble it up into a ball, throw it in the trash can, like a little paper toss back there on the old iOS 5 or something like that. Like you can factor it in, you can still have it in the back of your brain, but everything's different now. We have our first redraft mock underway. We're going to do a review of that next week for y'all. So definitely a lot of shifting and shaping in the fans football landscape. And I'm joined also by a man whose childhood summers, I have to guess, largely compare to probably like the first 30 minutes of The Parent Trap, because, well, that's what happens in well-off neighborhoods in the New England area. Our NFL entertainment betting expert here at IBT, Boston's boy, Steve Lawson. Steve, was it a summer camp experience like I'm saying when you were growing up?
No, it wasn't. I was not a summer camp kid. I was usually playing something or over my cousin's house, like being babysat by my aunt or whatever. It was usually just a lot of basketball, a lot of backyard football. But I am super excited to be here, sitting on your left, ready to give my emotional takes to the world and try to guide the people along the way, get people in touch with their feelings a little bit when it comes to some of these rookies coming up.
Hey, I'm here for it, brother. And before we get going, shout out to the IBT family who's tuning in tonight. We greatly appreciate all of y'all. Albert, ready? He was locked and loaded, saying good evening, IBT. Good evening, Albert. Thanks for joining us, buddy. Appreciate you. Everywhere in the YouTube fans football streets, you can find Albert. So really, really appreciate him tuning in here as always. Also, if you guys are unfamiliar with us, or if you're a returning viewer to the channel, be sure to go over to the website as well for some fantastic written content. Just today, we had a rookie sleepers article by our guy Ben and a Thunderbolts review. So just to kind of give you a taste of the range of content we're cooking up over there in the written streets. And while you're on the site, consider getting a ticket to Draft Night Out. That is our live fantasy football draft at the Fantasy Football Expo in Canton, Ohio this August. If you want to come draft with us and 200 of our closest fantasy football friends, this is the event for you. We'll have a shot wheel going. We got giveaways going off, some songs singing, everything in between for you. The link is in the episode description. And Eric, I will definitely be a case of Busch Light heavier after our Tyler Warren NFL draft bet. It was a tester, but a hit.
Oh man, it was a squeaker, and in rightful fashion, right? The draft bet from the year prior, I think, came down to one pick as well for JJ McCarthy. So if nothing else, Seth and I have a pretty accurate gauge of those lines out there, right? We threw that out in December, early January, roughly.
Yeah. Yeah, it was early.
That was a line that we set well before any of the books out there had it available.
Yeah, yeah. So shout out to me. If I don't think Bush Light Apple will be available then, but if it is, that will also do. I'm on the hunt. It's back in Pennsylvania right now. I went to the distributor and listen to this, Steve. Like talk about a little bit of blue balls action. I go into the distributor. They have a whole sign out there. Bush Light Apple. Apple season's back. I walk in. Oh, we're sold out. But come on. I'm on the hunt though.
That is brutal. I assume for the Bush Light fanatics out there, that's a hard loss.
It is.
You know what? I get it. Like every now and then, McDonald's runs out of like soda, and I can't get like a Diet Coke.
Dude, how do you not go to the ice cream machine with McDonald's? I feel like that's the real outcome, right? They're batting. Like
I don't get ice cream
on that
from
ice cream machine.
I don't get ice cream from McDonald's. You know what I mean? Like I get my Diet Coke in the morning, and like run off of that all day. You know.
Let's be honest, it's never really out. They just tell you it's out there because they don't feel like making it, right?
Yeah, they probably see me coming from a mile away. And they're like, there's not enough ice cream in the whole state.
Well, guys, no ice cream on the program, but we do have our rookie mock draft for you. So we'll go ahead and jump into that. And hopefully no one runs out. I mean, Diet Coke at any time during this episode, or Steve will have a fit. Let's get it rolling here. Rave rookie reviews. All right, so we're back in the rookie mock draft streets 2.0. This is a super flex, full point PPR, 12-team league. We're going to do the first two rounds for y'all tonight. And I'm going to start it out here at the top. No surprise. It's Ashton Jeanty. He was the guy who was on top of our board pre-NFL draft. He'll stay there post-NFL draft as well. And I would argue, gentlemen, that this is a guy in a tier by himself. Boise State running back Ashton Jeanty lands with the Raiders at number 6 overall. We cash a nice even money ticket on that. That felt great. And there's really not much to say about the young man that hasn't already been said on these particular airwaves, other than that his college production in 2024 was some of the most impressive numbers we've seen in the past decade for ball, and enough to give him a runner-up finish in the Heisman voting as well. He lands in a Pete Carroll team that wants to win by running the ball and playing great defense. And I think he will quickly transform a team that was dead last in rushing by a wide margin, average under 80 rushing yards per game, and take over this backfield. He's the 101 in Dynasty, and I believe he will be a first-round redraft pick for years to come. Eric, throwing it to you for the 102, and any disagreement on my take on Jeanty?
Nope. Jeanty's a 101. I think he'll largely be locked into that spot unless someone is trying to be particularly hot takey over the course of a very long offseason, which does happen. But I mean, the superlatives will continue to flow for him, and with just cause. Moving over to the 102, I guess I'll go with a technical 101, the 101 of the actual draft. Cam Ward of the Tennessee Titans. A lot of this is a nod to the format. I am a very basic bro when it comes to that. In Superflex, I put a premium on quarterbacks that I believe will hold the job for at least a reasonable projection amount of time and have some decent upside. And Cam Ward checks both of those boxes, right? He doesn't have the biggest arm in the league, but from an arm talent standpoint, his ability to deliver the ball, to make off-platform throws in and out of structure, all the different arm angles. He checks a lot of boxes there. He's in like the top third or so in that category for me as a prospect. And he walks into a situation in Tennessee that is not the worst thing in the world, right? Like they've got back-to-back first-round picks on that offensive line in the two drafts that preceded him, so he shouldn't be running for his life. The wide receiver core is aging but capable, right? Calvin Ridley still has some juice. They brought in Tyler Lockett. Your guy, Alec Alamior, came into the draft, and then his guy Xavier Restrepo as an unrestricted free agent. So he's got some some tools in the tool chest. I think he'll be able to stay upright. And if nothing else, this is an unheralded kid that has managed to show improvement and development at each stop and in each year of his career. There's no reason to think that he doesn't also have some upside he can continue to develop into here for Tennessee.
Yeah, I love the prospect. Junior college guy, goes out to Wazoo, then transfers down to Miami with Cristobal and the boys, takes them on quite a run. Doesn't get all the way to the herald land of the college football playoff, but still, brings the U back. And I love this guy because he's all ball, right? Like he is all ball. Like you could hear it in his interview after getting drafted as the first overall pick. He's ready to get to work. And it is funny what you said. Like there's definitely been way worse situations for like a first overall quarterback to land. And Cam Ward, like I will say too, like Eric, I know putting you at the 102 in this draft, I figured you would go 102 because you're always willing to take that quarterback value. I'll just say though, in a lot of commonplace rookie drafts, even in Superflex format, I've been seeing Cam Ward fall. I got him all the way in one draft at the 105. There was a Giants fan before me that took Jackson Dart, but I think you could definitely see him potentially floating around that 104 value. And like for me, grabbing a guy like Cam Ward, who we know has a long leash here in Tennessee, Steve, I'm all about it at the 102.
Yeah, it's definitely the safe pick, right? Like it just makes sense. I mean, if Jeanty wasn't such an elite prospect, or if Cam Ward was slightly more elite of a prospect, you flip them. But yeah, the 102, Cam Ward, quarterback driven, format, sure. Why not, right? I like Cam Ward, and I actually like the landing spot too. Tennessee is not nearly as bad as people want to make them out to be. I think Will Levis is as bad as people want to make him out to be. But I think there's a lot of, it's not like high upside, right? But the floor is solid for all the guys he has.
My comp has been pretty much throughout this entire process, like prime Joe Flacco, but I think Cam Ward is a little more like Boogie and a Scoot, I think a little bit. So, but that's the type of player that you're going to, like, I don't think he's ever going to be the quarterback one, but I certainly think there are years, kind of like a CJ Stroud rookie year, we could see where he's, quarterback 6, quarterback 7.
What I'll caution against there is, Joe Flacco statue in the pocket, right? CJ Stroud can move around in there, but not known for his athleticism. I think Cam Ward's got some athleticism in terms of upside in his locker that hasn't really been tapped in yet. Right?
Okay.
So there's some upside there. Probably not as big an arm as Joe Flacco in terms of that comp, maybe a little bit closer to like Jordan Love-ish. But either way, the floor is super high and the arrow is pointing up, right? So I'm happy to get the 101 in the real draft at the 102 here.
Yeah, I think like in terms of just floor though, like I mean in terms of NFL talent, the team he has around him is solid, right? Like he doesn't have any guy that's going to be like an elite player, but he doesn't have anyone on that team that's like an absolute like jag. Like he's got Calvin Ridley, he's got Chigakonkwo, he's got
Tyler Lockett. They just got Tyler Lockett.
Tony Pollard.
They just got Gunnar Helm.
There's good playmakers around him. Not great, but good enough to help him succeed. And they brought in his wide receiver from college, Restrepo. That's like a great sign that the franchise is like all in on him. It makes a lot of sense.
Well, we didn't even mention DK, who went in the I believe early fourth round before A.O. Manor went off the board. He's out of Florida. He could be a sneaky slot wide receiver potentially. Might not see a ton of time in year one with Tyler Lockett. Garnering a little bit of money to go out there to Music City. But yeah, love the pick with Cam Ward at the 102. I agree. I would be taking Cam Ward at the 102. I just don't think that's consensus currently. I think there are a lot of people potentially going elsewhere. But Steve, where are you going with the 103, my friend?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the guy that I've been harping on all offseason, and he went to a situation that I absolutely love. That's Tet McMillan. He is now a Carolina Panther. I thought, I prayed, I hoped he'd be a New England Patriot. He's not. So shockingly, the New England Patriots didn't do anything that anyone wanted them to do. But the Carolina Panthers delivered, and it looks like they are buying into Bryce Young and what he did at the end of last season, and they want to get him a weapon, and boy, did they get him one, because Tet McMillan is a big-bodied receiver who can run. He is a field stretcher. Bryce Young, maybe not known for his arm strength, certainly known for his accuracy on his intermediate throwing.
Mm-hmm.
And his deep throws are not bad per se, right? That's kind of what he was touted as coming out. Now, did it translate to the NFL? Not yet. But the flashes were there at the end of last season. I trust Dave Canellis to drop a lot of really good plays for Tet McMillan, because who does Tet McMillan remind me of a little bit? Well, that would be one Mike Evans out of Tampa Bay, where Dave Canellis came from. I mean, it makes all the sense in the world. And Mike Evans had some monster seasons under Dave Canellis as the coordinator or the QB coach and stuff like that. I like the skill set of Tet McMillan. I like what he brings. I think people have actually undersold his ability quite a bit this offseason because of where he went to school. I think if he went somewhere other than Arizona, if he went to an SEC school or a Big Ten school or an ACC school, we'd be having a very different conversation. But where he was like robbed of the Bolitnikoff Award, which went to Travis Hunter, which was a travesty on par with like name something. And it was Tet McMillan is him. And that's what I'm going to say to everybody is, yes, I have jumped significantly high-priced players to take him at the 103, and I would do it every single time.
Yeah, I think there's probably only one person you're really jumping that I think a lot of dynasty managers might go a different way. But at the same time, like the thing I like about Tet McMillan, specifically landing here in Carolina, well, it hasn't been great from an overall team perspective. They have a really good offensive line that can give Bryce Young some time back there, and he could look none other than Tet McMillan's way, like a big-bodied receiver. Bryce Young's going to be looking for that out of smaller height. That's always been my concern with Bryce Young, and why coming into the process a couple years ago, he was actually my quarterback 2 in that class, and I was way higher than consensus on CJ Stroud. At the same time, though, I am really looking forward to seeing what he can do down there in Carolina, where like Adam Thielen was fantasy relevant at times. He will still be back. We will see Thielen once again in 2025. But aside from him, aside from our favorite quote, Xavier Legette, there's not a ton down there taking away targets from Tet McMillan. So I like him a lot. I like going with that 103 and going wide receiver. Eric, do you have a problem with Tet at the 103?
No, not at all. I'm closer to Steve's evaluation on him as a prospect. I think we're kind of in a mini tier onto itself. So to the extent that you can kind of make a team need decision between this and a player that I'm sure we're going to talk about soon enough. But in terms of, pure wide receivers on the board, he's clearly number one for me. And I think the arrow is pointing in the right direction for this Panthers offense, right? Like, not only do we think that they're going to be able to move the ball more effectively on the whole, but Tet McMillan is going to be a priority when they are in the red zone, and that is going to give you a lot of touchdown equity.
At the 104, I'm going with Omarion Hampton.
There he is.
Running back for the Chargers. After garnering first-round draft capital from LA, I've seen Omarion Hampton go as early as the 102 in Superflex formats. So as any dynasty manager would be, I'm very happy to have him fall all the way to the 104. To me, last 2 years, this is a guy who's led the ACC in rushing yards, over 3,000 yards combined. He scored 33 total touchdowns in that span, and also has some pretty good pass catching chops as well. 67 receptions, 300 yards in that span as well. And like, I get that Najee Harris is going to be around for at least this year, but I think Hampton probably eventually works his way into probably like a 60-40 split. And I think on a team that had the 12th most rushing attempts last year, he should be locked and loaded for a dynasty RB1 ranking really for the next 4 to 5 years. He gets that first round draft capital. I'm in here at the 104, Eric. I still don't think I've been necessarily as high as consensus on Hampton that I would take him over Ward. And but I think him and Tet is a real conversation.
Yeah, that's exactly who I was alluding to in terms of this mini tier, right? If you're at a point where you're picking, third or fourth, maybe even as early as second, I think you can make a team need decision in that kind of microcosm. Hampton is a really interesting prospect. I know that Najee Harris, the forever 1,000-yard running back coming into the Chargers by way of free agency, sort of muddies the outlook for this upcoming season. but he doesn't really have anything on his contract that will make him sticky past 2025, right? So, there's certainly a world where he's splitting carries with Harris this year, and in a Greg Roman offense, that's not the worst thing in the world. But beyond that, I mean, he is a elite running back prospect in this year's class, and there's a non-zero chance that his talent just wins out and he takes the majority of the workload as soon as this year. So he definitely is someone that is worthy of that early first round capital to me.
Okay. Eric, let's go ahead to the 105, and it's someone who's certainly moved up our rankings since garnering some first-round draft capital. He was 107 in our last rookie Superflex mock draft, and moving up a couple spots here.
Yeah, at least for me, part of the consideration was, like Steve, I thought he was going to be a New Orleans Saint. And while it feels weird to say these words out loud, I actually like his prospects as a New York Giant more than I do as a New Orleans Saint. So that's part of the reason why he moves up. And there's a practical consideration, right? Like, again, now 2 picks in a row. There's such a premium on this position in Superflex format, right? So anytime that there's kind of a betweener tier, sort of a dude that's sitting on an island, if that guy happens to be a quarterback, I'm going to err in that direction, right? There's so much value to just stockpiling these guys. Jaxson Dart did get that first round draft capital and draft capital that the New York Giants had to trade back into the first round to spend. So clearly they are invested in this guy. I think that the future of both Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll are tied to his ability to get on the field fairly quickly. And look, this is an air yards merchant who is now tied to Malik Neighbors on a team that is probably going to be trailing a fair amount, right? So I think he can take the field quickly. That's probably the biggest question mark for him. I'm not as worried as others are. And once he gets out there, his ability to hold that position is tied directly to the coaching and front office staff's abilities to hold their jobs. So I think that incentive to have him out there early this year.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like he truly was the QB2 of most NFL draft teams boards, and I feel like he was kind of in a tier by himself. And I feel kind of similar about Dart as you do, maybe about Warder, maybe as consensus does. And like, I don't know if the elite upsides there. Like, this is a guy who can run around a little bit. I don't necessarily want to say he has Drake May caliber legs, but he definitely can get out on the edge a little bit and run a bit. Who would you compare? Who'd you compare his running style to? Like Daniel Jones-esque? Is that a good comp?
I mean, there's a lot of Daniel Jones to that. I think he's a little bit more fluid and intentional in how he moves, right? But he's also he's got some force behind him, his momentum when he runs, right? Like almost like a trimmed down Big Ben as well, right? Like he can do enough with his feet.
He reminds me of pre-injury Dak Prescott.
Okay.
For his overall comp, I think that's about right. Somewhere like in the Dak Prescott, Baker Mayfield-ish range. But as a runner is what I thought the question was.
That's where I see him as a runner too. Like Dak was
a little more mobile than you think, Eric.
Yeah, back before that ankle injury, he was a good runner. And then he got the ankle injury, and it obviously like all went south. But yeah, that's where I would have Jaxson Dart.
Okay, Steve, let's throw it over to you for the 106, man. Where are you going here? Are you sticking with the quarterback position? You going back to wide receiver? What's the move here at the 106?
I am going to jump to the running back position and go with TreVeyon Henderson for the New England Patriots. I called this, which was nice. Always nice to be right. Love being right. That being said, this is a wide open opportunity for Henderson because Ramondre Stevenson really had one very good season, and it wasn't like great. It was fine. It was good. And then never really became a thing. Sadly, I've said this before. It seems like Antonio Gibson is going to be a thing of the past. He's just going to be a backup running back again. So it's Henderson's job. They burned an early second round pick on him. That's not something the Patriots usually do with running backs. They love to go late and get them there. What I love about Henderson is how explosive he is in the open field. He is right now, today, the best playmaker on the New England Patriots today.
Yeah.
Without a single snap being played. I don't care. Don't name Stephon Diggs. Don't name Pop Douglas. Don't name Quinshon Booty. Don't name any other running back.
Are you naming Drake May? You thinking Drake May?
Hunter Henry?
I am going to talk about who I think is maybe
Okay.
the best
Okay.
athlete
Yeah,
a
we'll
little
get
bit later
there.
in the show.
We'll get there. And I think that's also a good player. But this is where I look and I say, if someone is going to generate offense when no one else is getting it done, we need that home run hit, this is the guy to do it. He can do it out of the passing game. He can do it out of the running game. He has great vision. He has great burst. His acceleration is elite. A lot of things that we've been lacking in New England. And basically just excitement has been lacking in New England. We just added an offensive tackle in the draft, bolstering our line, hopefully helping in the passing protection, but also in the run protection or run blocking. We need to have guys that can do this. And TreVeyon Henderson is that guy. When I looked at the draft and I said, who did I want the Patriots to go after? Realistically, this was the guy. It's why I said it, because Hampton didn't really fit. And we were never going to get Ashton Jeanty unless we burned the 4th overall pick on him. So Henderson was the most logical pick at running back. It seemed like a pipe dream, but it came true. So I'm pretty happy.
Yeah, I kind of like what the Patriots did early on. I mean, you get a guy who's willing to die for their quarterback playing left tackle. And then Henderson, super interesting prospect to me. He was my RB2 for fantasy coming into the NFL draft, just purely because not only is this guy a great pass catcher and a really good slashing early downs back, but he is elite when it comes to pass protection. So I knew he would get onto the field early. I knew he would garner a lot of interest from NFL teams, and he'll be a great sidekick to Drake May. My only issue with, I guess, Henderson at the 106 still, because he's still my RB3, so I don't think it's out of line to take him here, is like, I'm just always the dynasty manager willing to churn over running backs. And maybe that's like appealing to go get Henderson the 106, but at the same time, I do favor a couple of these other players I'm going to talk about over him right now, just because it's hard to find good tight ends. It's hard to find sometimes good wide receivers. Like, I mean, I drafted Bucky Irving, guys, in the 4th round of a rookie draft last year, and I just flipped him for a 1st rounder, a 3rd rounder, and I got a rookie running back as well in Taj Brooks. So that's my only concern with Trey Henderson here at 6, but I think it's a totally viable option. At the 107, I definitely consider Travis Hunter here, but I'm going to be risk adverse. I'm going to take Penn State tight end Tyler Warren, who landed with the Colts 14th overall. And I know everyone is sliding him down their rankings, sometimes as far as outside of the 1st round. I think that is a great mistake. And I don't hate the situation as much as I think everyone else is. Like, despite what we think about Shane Steichen as a head coach, the dude can draw up plays with the best of them. And I think the 75 targets that we saw split among the tight ends in Indianapolis last season, that's the bare minimum for what Warren could see off the rip. And even that, like, I don't think these are elite pass catchers by any means. Like, Josh Downs, Michael Pittman, really good NFL wide receivers. They're not game wreckers. They're not elite players. And I don't think a Mitchell, I don't think Alec Pierce are going to stop him from garnering more targets either. And like, Jonathan Taylor also had some real issues around the goal line. Like, who will forget that fumble late in the season that cost me going to a couple of fantasy football championships? Like, I think in an effort to protect Anthony Richardson, to help JT along the goal line, maybe Shane Steichen utilizes Warren's rushing ability, maybe even a couple tush-push actions if that's still legal by that time. So, and like, you can hate the quarterback situation, but there's nothing stopping from Jim Irsay and this family from going out, hitting the reset button on the regime, on the signal caller position as soon as 2026. So I'm thinking long-term here with Tyler Warren. I'm going to go with my tight end 1 at the 107 here, or at the 106, excuse me. Any 107. Any issue with that, Eric?
Not one that I really want to quibble about, right? I would probably take Colston Loveland over him, but I think this range of the draft is correct for both of them, right? To your point, I think it's a little bit more about if you need someone that can immediately contribute, if you need someone that has a little bit more upside, that might steer you one way. If you have time to be patient and let someone's quarterback situation shake out, then you can make a defendable case for Warren. So I think moreover, kind of the back half of the 1st round is where I think you need to be considering these guys. So I'm not going to make a big fuss over one or two spots ahead of the other.
Okay, who do you have at the 108 then, Eric? And would you take this player over Tyler Warren?
I probably would take this player over Tyler Warren. That is Travis Hunter, the newly minted Jacksonville Jaguar.
The slide
look,
is over.
Yeah, the slide is over. Realistically, this is probably the earliest that I would take him, and I am the most bullish on him of everyone that is speaking into a microphone tonight. So I think it's fine to start considering him here. Where I have issue with him is when, I've seen him go off the board at the 102 or the 103 in some cases.
I've seen 104, 105 too. Yeah, it's kind of everywhere. Buckshot.
Yeah. Kind of like I was saying with the tight ends, a pick or two, whatever. If we're talking about, a considerable number of picks down the board is where I think it's material. And that's the point that I want to make with Travis Hunter. He steps into a Liam Cohen offense that has a pretty good track record of feeding and supporting two elite pass catching options. Not exactly clear who's going to be the one and who's going to be the 1A, but very talented pass catcher, a cerebral guy, a guy that still has upside on his radar. The thing that gives me pause, and we talked about this a few weeks ago, they drafted him, at least they spent enough draft capital to where they're probably going to try to play him on both sides.
Yep.
And I think that's going to be a disaster, whether it's from an injury standpoint, whether it's from a longevity standpoint, whether it's just from the ability to adjust to the NFL level standpoint. If they just came out and said, we just made Travis Hunter the highest drafted wide receiver in however many years, he's going to play wide receiver exclusively, I would feel very differently about him. They are leaning towards him being a primarily a wide receiver, but I think they're going to try to do both, and that just adds so much variability to his range of outcomes to where I can't feel comfortable spending like a top 6 or 7 pick on him.
I agree. I completely agree. We did touch on that. We put out a VOD this week about it too, and while I love everything that James Gladstone is saying, and he definitely rose up from our rankings before when he was back in that second round because we didn't know what to do with him. It's just hard for me to put a lot of faith in someone who could be playing on the other side of the ball and at injury risk when he's not, getting you fantasy points, right? So that's the issue I have with Travis Hunter. That's the issue I have with him going in the top 36 of redraft right now too, where he's starting to bubble up to. Like, I think it is an egregious overpay for Travis Hunter. I love the talent. I love the kid. It's just too expensive for me. Steve, over to you with the 109.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with another running back. I'm gonna go with Quinshon Judkins, the new Nick Chubb, and that's all I have to say about him. Nick Chubb's out. Quinshon Judkins is in. Jerome Ford is a Jag. I don't know what to tell you. Like, this is a guy that is absolutely going to take over that backfield. He probably already has the starting job day one. There's no reason to move away from him. And every measurable was great. Right? Like, yes, he doesn't have that great breakaway speed, but you know what? Neither did Nick Chubb. And he did pretty good in Cleveland under the same exact coaching regime. So I'm all in on Quinshon Judkins. If I get him at the 109, I am thrilled because he could very well be a game wrecker. And there's not much more I need to say about that other than he's a stud.
If you know anything about me, I'm like the most indecisive person sometimes in life. And like Quinshon Judkins for me just like amplifies that because I've been up and down on him this entire process. And the thing about Cleveland, like, I do agree with you. He should walk in and he's going to see 200 plus touches as a rookie. However, I'm still worried that like they went after Dylan Sampson to be the lightning to his thunder. Totally get that. Dylan Sampson, former track guy, but they still have Jerome Ford around there as well. So I think year one, it could be a little complicated for Quinshon Judkins, and he's not going to catch that many passes for you. So I just see a lot of mixed variables. Yeah, Eric, are you high? Are you high? Like, I don't know. I think this is the right range for Judkins. I don't mind the pick, but I just think the upside is going to be a little more limited than people think, unless he's going to go out there and score you double-digit touchdowns every single season, which he very well could.
So I think double-digit touchdowns is well represented on his range of outcomes. We talked about this the last time that we had him up. I actually abstained from drafting him earlier because I didn't want to just stump for my guy for another episode.
Yeah.
But I've actually got him as my running back 3, 21 years old.
You like him more than Henderson?
I like him more than Henderson because I think he's going to step immediately into the elite workload that is so hard to come by in today's NFL. I think the other back they drafted is much more of a threat to Jerome Ford. And like I mentioned last time we were talking about him, go back and watch the tape prior to his time at Ohio State. You're not going to be catching any passes if TreVeyon Henderson is out there as an option. But look at him at Ole Miss. He's actually a very capable receiver. So I don't think you can just completely write off that workload. Maybe they give it to him, maybe they don't. I think it's just more of an open question than a foregone conclusion that he's only getting early down work.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. That's a great point to make. And at the 110, I'm not going to miss out on a potentially elite tight end because people don't like the landing spot with Colston Loveland. I think the compelling part about Loveland is that he just turned 21 last month. So this kid's still very young, and allegedly he was who a lot of these teams like Denver were trying to trade up for. So the Bears weren't completely off base with taking him where they did at 10 overall or as the tight end 1 in this class. And like, also at the same time, this is coming off a season where he wasn't a huge producer because Michigan was running out the likes of Davis Warren, Alex Orji, a little Jack Tuttle action there at quarterback at one point. So like, I get that it's crowded in the Bears offense, but there's an out in DJ Moore's contract after 2027. They could also look to potentially move him down the line. Like when they need to pay Kaleb Johnson and still like, I think there's a chance that Ben Johnson, the Bears are going to learn very soon that they got pretty much Wan'Dale Robinson when they drafted Luther Burden early in the second, and he's nothing more than a rocked up version of that. So that's my case for Colston Loveland. It's going to take some time. It's going to be a little volatile for a year or two, but I'm willing to ride it out for a potential elite tight end down the stretch, man. This is one of those stocks that you just sit and wait. It's like been the Chipotle stock I've been sitting on for many, many years. Like you just sit, you watch, you let it grow, baby, and you let it cook up. So, Steve, any thoughts on Colston Loveland at the 110 here?
Yeah, it's probably a bit too early for my blood for Colston Loveland.
Okay.
Just because like we also are discounting that Cole Kmet is still there, and he's not a bad tight end. He's a pretty good receiver.
Not
you
worried
should
about
be.
Cole.
You
His
should
mom
be.
still won't follow me back on Instagram. I'm not worried about tight end, brother. Ain't worried about it.
What does that have to do with the price of eggs?
Well,
I mean, like,
at one point we put out a little VOD about Colston Loveland. His mom didn't love it. Commented on Instagram. I tried to follow her back. She won't accept my follow request. So yeah.
On Cole Kmet,
on Cole Kmet's mom. Yeah, Cole
that's
Kmet.
some crazy lore.
Yeah,
no, I just think that with all those mouths to feed in Chicago, it just seems like it's a lot. It scares me. It scares me, and I don't want to be dealing with it. Frankly, and there's a guy who I'll be drafting soon that I would take at this spot over Colston.
Okay. Eric, would you take Loveland at the 110, or do you think I am too high on him? But I just can't get past the draft capital, and where are you going at 111 as well?
Yeah, like I said when we were talking about Warren, I think this is the right range for both of them. I've actually got Loveland ahead of Warren. I don't think this is a bad landing spot at all. It's crowded, but I think that we'll see the wheat separate from the chaff before long. And the overarching point with all of this is take nothing for granted when there is a turnover at the head coaching and offensive play calling positions.
Yep.
We have no idea how he evaluates DJ Moore, how he evaluates Rome Odunze, right? You would think that they like what they see and find a way to incorporate them, but everything is on the table. I think he went out and got his Sam Laporta, right? A somewhat unheralded, at least not the consensus 101 at the position, and found a way to make him produce as such. So I think he's got a lot of wind in his sails. I don't mind taking a shot on him here.
He's 21. You could get 10 years of Colston Loveland, brother. You get 10 years this guy.
You could.
You got 10 years of all
in a
these
Ben
guys.
Johnson offense, right? This is the right range for him. You know, I'm pretty bullish on the landing spot overall. Also the right range, 111 for RJ Harvey, arguably the biggest winner of the NFL draft process in terms of his landing spot and what it did to his fantasy, and in this case, his dynasty stock. The only thing that kept me from pulling the trigger on him a little bit earlier is the opposite of Colston Loveland. RJ Harvey's already 24 years old. I am a noted ageist when it comes to running backs in this dynasty game. I'm not trying to go out there and spend first or early first round capital on a guy that's going to be turning 25, 26 before I know it. I'm trying to get him off of my roster. So if it wasn't for that age, he would be right up there with Quinshon Judkins as my running back 3 in this class. A beautiful landing spot, almost no viable competition for touches. And he comes in as an elite pass catcher in an offense that had the 4th most targets to running backs last season with a bunch of Jags running out there. Now they actually bring in some talent at the position. He's got so much runway in front of him. Unfortunately, I think it's like 2 to 3 years of runway and not, half a decade plus.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. I still think he's young enough. He can get that second contract, that the age doesn't deter me too much from him. Like, he's not going to have a huge lifespan, but
he's not getting that second contract on my roster. Let me just put it that way.
Okay. Yeah. And that's the thing. You can,
those
you
old
can
heads have no place on my dynasty roster.
Yeah, I agree. You can turn it over at this position. That's why I love the running backs. You can just move on and find the next guy out there. But RJ Harvey, great landing spot, exciting prospect, really took off with UCF, and it was an exciting time for them because they were in their program where they were a G5 team, man, coming to the Power 4, and RJ Harvey put him on their back, almost upset Alabama a year ago, got Jalen Milroe benched in that game, the UCF defense. So I like Harvey. He's fun, and I've seen this guy go all the way back into the mid-second round, which is an absolute travesty. So to get him at the 111, this is his rightful value. Steve, hit us with the 112.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with my secret weapon in drafts. I've drafted him in every rookie draft I'm in. It's Trey Harris out of Ole Miss. He went to the LA Chargers, who needed a deep ball guy, a big play threat that could complement Ladd McConkey. That's what they got. So now I'm sitting here and I am just reaping the benefits, and I cannot wait to watch what this guy does. He's a big bodied guy. He's strong. He's fast. He does everything you want out of that X receiver spot. And now Justin Herbert has multiple weapons to play with. This is a very exciting situation now for the Chargers, who I think could take a leap if their defense plays decent, right? I don't know what it is about that team that they can't play defense. They have a lot of good players, but if this team plays just a solid defense, not great, just solid, they'll be a very good team. Trey Harris, I could see going for 1,000 yards this season pretty easily.
I like Trey Harris a lot. I'm not sure how they'll specifically deploy him because Ladd's a guy who can really be moved all over. He's a little bit of a chess piece. So I don't know if he'll be Trey Harris in the flanker role. I don't know if he will see more time at X. I could even see him run out a little bit of power slot. But one thing's for sure, you're going to see Trey Harris run some crossers, and he's going to be hit 15 yards down the field, and he's going to, he's going to make some people miss, and he's going to go for some gainers. That's what you can expect from Trey Harris here. And at the 112, is this rich is this rich, Eric? I don't think this is. I think anywhere you can make the argument for Trey Harris, second round draft capital as well. Anywhere to me from the 112 to the 202, I'd be fine with it.
Yeah, I think this is the high end of his range, but not out of the question by any means. You can make a meaningful and reasonable case for it, as Steve just did.
Yeah. I would go with Emeka Egbuka, who I'm going to go with at the 201 over him. He got drafted to what was a really shaky spot in Tampa Bay, and for me, I think if you're getting Emeka Egbuka though at the 201, you're just absolutely drinking up so much value here, man. He was my wide receiver 2 in this process, and while the landing spot's dicey to start off, Egbuka was arguably the most NFL ready wide receiver. And he will find a way onto the field with how good he is in run blocking specifically. And after taking him in the top 20, saying, hey, they were going to be sick if somebody else drafted this guy that they had to, I believe Jason Light and the Bucs will find a way to get him on the field as early as this year, as Chris Godwin continues to make his way back from major injury. Also, Godwin's deal is more of just really a 2-year deal with a club option after that, so they could move on. Mike Evans getting a little long in the tooth. I don't think he'll be done after this year. Potentially, I think he could be around for 2 or 3 more years. He's going to be a buck for life. And no more Leon Cohen running the sticks here in Tampa. But with how bad their defense and secondary were, and likely playing some rookie cornerbacks out there this season, I expect the Bucs to once again be a top 10 team in passing attempts. I think Baker Mayfield will love this guy almost as great as he is. It might be December when the Bucs are making a playoff push or the year following, but people will regret letting the Ohio State Buckeyes slide this far. Eric, to you with the 202.
Yeah, 202 is a player that I've seen go into the middle to latter parts of the first round pretty often. Kaleb Johnson steps into Pittsburgh. He doesn't have to change the color of his kits very much, and he steps into the backfield that has the most vacated carries and yards in all of the NFL, over 1,000 yards, 1,038 out the door as Najee Harris heads out, and steps into a system where, whether it's Aaron Rodgers being a million years old or Mason Rudolph, there's questions at the quarterback position, but what is not in question is that Arthur Smith had this team attempt the 6th most rushing attempts in all of the NFL last year. In fact, all but one of his 6 seasons as a head coach or offensive coordinator, his teams have been top 7 in rushing attempts in the NFL. So there is plenty of volume. Mm-hmm. Kaleb Johnson is a patient, fluid, but explosive runner that I think can make the most of it.
Year one, it could be a 50-50 split, maybe a 60-40 split with Jaylen Warren. However, Jaylen Warren is an undrafted free agent. He is on a tender this season, and I think he's going to want to go get paid somewhere next year. So I don't know if Jaylen Warren is long for this team. Zone running scheme with Arthur Smith is exciting for Kaleb Johnson. Get him at the 202. It's a great place for him. Steve, 203, please.
Yeah, I'm getting Green Bay's new wide receiver 1. That's Matthew Golden. It's very rare for a guy who was drafted in the first round at a skill position to fall to you in the second round like this. And I am absolutely going to take advantage of it. Do I love Matthew Golden, the prospect? Not as much as I love some other guys, but you know what? I'll take the value where I can get it. I have him ahead of Egbuka. I have him solidly as probably my wide receiver 3. So I'll take that at the 203 for sure. And you know what? The Packers needed a number 1 guy, and they went and got one. So I'm all in.
Yeah, can't blame you at the 203. It's great value for Matthew Golden, and I've kind of compared him to like Stephon Diggs light. That's kind of who he reminds me of, and I think that's like potentially a ceiling. I think the floor is certainly quite a bit lower as well, but it's a mixed bag there in Green Bay. They certainly like him to go after him. So 203, can't complain there. At the 204, give me Iowa State wide receiver Jaden Higgins, who was my wide receiver 5 coming into the draft. I was way too high on A.O. Manor, so he was in my 4 slot. So moved Higgins up 1 slot after going to Houston at 34 overall. And I was going to kick myself because I was actually thinking of taking a 40-1 gainer on him to go in round 1. Ultimately, the Texans trade back to give CJ Stroud another weapon. I think talent-wise, we'd all agree CJ Stroud is a top 10 quarterback in the NFL. So you're pairing him with a wide receiver who was insanely productive in college, top 10 in the country in receptions and yards this past season, playing with Rocco Becht, who's not a great quarterback by any means. And so now you're pairing him with CJ Stroud. So we were all drafting Texans wide receivers in the top 5 rounds of redraft last year. So I see no reason Higgins can't immediately be a guy who steps in, gives you wide receiver 3 production right off the rip. And one day, maybe he's giving you like T. Higgins light production, where he's going out there and putting up, wide receiver 15 to 20 results on a season-long basis. Eric, over to you with a 205.
Going to stick with the running back position yet again. Cameron, don't call me Cam Scattaboo. Lunch pail guy, first guy in, last guy out, like a coach on the field, but also a very capable running back, right? A guy that has incredible contact balance. He finishes through contact and gets those extra yards. He should be a force around the goal line, but also a player that profiles pretty nicely from a passing down work projection as well. He's a very capable pass catcher. I'd say he's a willing pass protector. He needs to work on his technique, but he's not afraid to stay in there and deliver the pain, right? So a guy that both the coaching staff and front office are already raving about in the media, and someone that I think could work into probably the better side of like a 65-35 split pretty quickly in this backfield.
Yeah, I agree with you. Tyrone Tracy, fun story, popped a little bit in year 1. Had a lot of ball security issues. Same with Devin Singletary out there. So they're looking at a guy who can hang on to the ball, keep them moving, keep those chains moving, keep first downs coming. I think Cam Scattaboo is that guy. He was someone I really liked in the process. And if he was just the Giants were another team. They had some late day 2 picks and early day 3 picks. And if they would have just used one of those late day 2 picks on Scadaboo, he would be a guy who's sitting in some elite company with that day 2 draft capital. So he does have day 3 going against him, but still early day 3. I love this kid coming out of Arizona State. We've talked about him a ton on this program over the past 6 months or so. So excited to see him get a start here in the Big Apple. Steve, over to you with the 206.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Luther Burden III for the Chicago Bears. I think that this guy is overhated. He was a monster. If he had come out last year, we'd be talking about him as an elite wide receiver prospect. Then he has a down year because Oklahoma State couldn't figure out how to tie their own shoes. Missouri, couldn't figure out how to tie their own shoes correctly, let alone play football. And you know what? That's what happens. Sometimes people have down years because the program has a down year. I don't think it's a talent issue. He's great after the catch. He's electric. He's great in the open field. He's a good for like gadget plays, sweeps, short crossers, whatever you need him to do. He's good at it. And I'll take him at a discount at the 206 for sure.
That's my issue with Luther Burden. I think he's a gadget player. I think he's someone who needs manufactured touches. He cannot create separation on his own. So that is why I've been down on Luther Burden throughout the process. I know we have varying takes on that, but still at the 206, I'm fine with it. I really am. It's crowded there once again, but I'm cool with it. I would take Jack Besh over him, though, at the 207. That's where I'm going for the Las Vegas Raiders. Love this kid. We've told the story before. Senior Bowl MVP goes out there less than a month after losing his brother in that tragic New Orleans Day, New Year's attack, and proved he's a very good intermediate wide receiver at TCU. Again, playing with subpar quarterback play. Had Josh Hoover, not the worst quarterback in the Big 12, but certainly not an accurate passer by any means. Led the team in receiving yards and touchdowns. And he got round 2 draft capital. That's what no one's talking about. This guy got the same draft capital pretty much as Luther Burden. Only competition for him, though, unlike Burden, is Brock Bowers at tight end, Jacoby Myers, and maybe Ashton Jeanty, who will be ahead of him in the target pecking order. So I'm very much in at Jack Besh with the 207. Eric, over to you with the 208.
I alluded to this player earlier as maybe the most explosive on the New England Patriots offense. That is Kyle Williams, their newly minted wide receiver coming in out of Wazoo. Look, for my money, this is probably the hottest of the takes I have on him. The best separator in this year's wide receiver class. This kid has so many different release points. He has so many different ways to break it off at the stem and to create separation in and out of his route tree. And he is a player that is going to be exactly the answer that Drake May is looking for. So I am taking him here. In fact, knowing that he's probably going 6, 8, 10 picks later in most rookie drafts, because I think he has that type of talent. He's not quite as electric in terms of his agility, but very close comp to Ladd McConkey this year, and the answer that this New England passing game has been looking for.
Yeah, I'm completely okay with this. I know a lot of people are not as high on Kyle Williams as you are, and I would say I am as well, because I think like he if I was on the board here with this pick, he would be my pick as well, Eric. I was hoping he would actually come back to me at the 210. He didn't. Kyle Williams, interesting prospect because he doesn't truly break out until he loses Cam Ward at quarterback, has to deal with John Mateer and the boys. And while it wasn't necessarily, a great team overall, Kyle Williams, very, very good prospect. I agree. And it was funny enough, you mentioned Ladd McConkey. I was playing against my brother in NCAA 25 a couple weeks ago, Eric, and he was Georgia. I was Washington State. I just fed this kid the ball. He had 10 receptions, 215 yards, 3 touchdowns. He just kept getting open. He's like, why do you keep throwing to this guy? I was like, dude, he's getting open. So hopefully he can translate it to fantasy production and real life production. Steve, over to you with the 209, please.
Yeah, it's rare to find a guy who's projected to be a starting quarterback probably this season, this late in the Superflex draft. So I'm going to take Tyler Shuck, which I find out I was pronouncing his name wrong for a while there. But that's
you in the whole world, brother.
Yeah. He went to New Orleans with a coach in Kellen Moore, who is used to working with quarterbacks who may have some accuracy issues with Jalen Hurts. And I like that. I like that he'll simplify this offense for him. He'll make it work. I think this is a good spot to take a shot because there's not that many exciting prospects after him anyway. So try to get a starting quarterback where you can. It's pretty simple when it comes to Superflex. Get the quarterbacks. When in doubt, go quarterback.
I agree with you. Definitely not as high on Tyler Shuck as a prospect as most people are, I feel like, especially when you factor in that he's already 25. He's had major injuries throughout his entire collegiate career. Guy used to butt back up Justin Herbert. But, you talked about him on our Risers episode last week, Steve. Like, he simply is a riser because it's him, it's Spencer Rattler, and Jake Haener and company down there. Like, there's not a lot. If Derek Carr truly is hurt for the season, they took him in the second round, egregious pick in my mind, in the top 50 of this NFL 2025 class. But needless to say, he could be starting this year. So in a Superflex league, that will have value. And if he goes out and has like a Will Levis 4 touchdown first game, flip him right away. Flip him, baby. Flip him. At the 210, give me Jalen Knoll. This is another Iowa State wide receiver going to Houston. Pair him with C.J. Stroud. Knoll totaled over 2,000 receiving yards, 15 touchdowns for the Cyclones over the past 2 seasons. Finished top 6 in the Big 12 for receptions in 3 straight seasons. Also named Big 12 Special Teams Player of the Year. They're going to get a little juice there on special teams. And I think eventually he will earn the slot role either this year if Christian Kirk goes down or next year without Kirk. Obviously, you have Tank Dell out there who might still be around, but I think Tank Dell, given his injuries, we're not going to see him this year, and potentially in 2026, he might not be an every snap player. So Jalen Knoll, it might be a little crowded there in the slot. I think the cream eventually rises to the top. Who you got the 211, Eric?
211, I will continue to bang the drum for the format being Superflex. Jalen Milroe sitting here at the end of the second round is exactly the type of prospect that I want to add to my stable of quarterbacks in this format. Look, obviously, he is an imperfect passer, but he is an electric and dynamic player with the ball in his hand as a ball carrier. And while that is what jumps off of his tape, that he can make anyone miss in the open field, he can pull away from some of the best defenders in the SEC. I don't think that his ability as a passer is that far off, right? Like, a lot of people want to talk about like the comp to Anthony Richardson, different body types, but a lot of the same question marks heading into their NFL careers. I think he's actually got more tools and traits to work with heading into the NFL than Anthony Richardson did, right? So by no means is he a surefire thing. He gets to land in Seattle and sit behind Sam Darnold for a year or two, which I think is ideal for his development. And this is the lottery ticket that I want heading into the third round in Superflex.
Yeah, it certainly is a lottery ticket. It certainly is. And who knows what happens out there. I'm going to honestly say there's potential for Sam Darnold to struggle just because the offensive line isn't great. That's potentially where Sam Darnold struggled the most, whether that was late in the season with Minnesota last year when their line started to become a problem, or if it was back in his days in New York as well. So I don't mind the shot on Jalen Milroe. Maybe we see him get involved in some packages as early as this season. He's a great taxi squad stash at the end of the second. Steve, round us out with 212, please.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Bashal Tootin out of the running back for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Listen, the Jaguars need a starting running back, and it doesn't seem like Etienne's the guy, and it doesn't seem like Bigsby's really ready to be that. It seems like he's better to be like a complimentary piece. And this is a dude who's a burner, right? And I always love a nice home run threat at the end of the second round where you can, it's kind of a dart throw and saying F it. You can just go for it. That's what I'm doing, and that's what I'm taking.
Yeah, I'm cool with it, man. Vautech seriously disappointing this past year. Kyron Jones and company, very, very disappointing to say the least. And I think Tootin was the guy who rose to the occasion. And look, I mean, this is a guy in Liam Cohen who said, hey, I got Rachaad White. Give me Bucky Irving last year, and let's make him something, a day 3 running back. So I think maybe we see something similar there added to in the former Hokie. So, guys, appreciate all the insight tonight. Appreciate everyone who's rode with us this long. That is going to do it for us tonight on the In Between Fantasy Football Podcast. If you guys could please give this video a thumbs up if you enjoy this type of content. Also, subscribe to the whole channel. We've got NFL betting, college football betting, NASCAR betting, PGA betting, and entertainment betting, all to help you cash more. Enjoy the ride along the way. Also, be sure to check out InBetweenMedia.com for written content and upcoming live events, including Draft Night Out, our 2025 live draft party out there in Canton, Ohio, as part of the Fantasy Football Expo. It's going to be a blast. For Eric Romoff and Steve Lawson, I'm Seth Wilcock. Thanks for watching, and keep it in between till next time, y'all.